I would say if you are younger, the most important thing to remember is to start. It doesn't matter how much you invest, it matters that you start, because time is the most powerful ingredient when it comes to investing. Not everyone is born into wealth. Not everyone will have wealthy parents or marry a rich partner or win the lotto. So the only way that you can really change your financial destiny is through investing. Because if you move to another country, you spend so much of your time really just trying to survive, trying to establish yourself, trying to get your head around how the system works, just getting, a place to stay, just getting a job. So the last thing on your mind is, what am I going to need in 20 years' time? One of the common misconceptions, and which is very risky, which a lot of people would say, is my property is my pension.
Thank you for joining, Maike Currie. I know you've us very busy this week. We're recording in the week that the budget's been announced, and I'm so keen to get into the details of that. But firstly, I'd love to get to know you a bit more, get to know your background, your history. You've done so much. Your LinkedIn CV looks fantastic, and I think we have a lot of knowledge that we can gain from you. So if you don't mind letting us know about your journey.
Firstly, thanks so much for having me. It's brilliant. And yes, where to start? So I'm South African, which you can tell from the accent. And I'm really pleased to hear that you're Zimbabwean,
Yes.
which is brilliant. So we are neighbours. I've been in the UK now for almost 20 years. I started my career in South Africa as a journalist. After studying journalism and economics, I became a financial journalist working for a national. And then, as I said, many years ago, there was a time where loads of South Africans were coming over to the UK to do a gap year, as it was. And my little sister came over and I had FOMO. So I decided I'll come over too. And, one thing led to another. I was very lucky to get a great job within the Financial Times Group, starting on a magazine called Investors Chronicle, which is the oldest stocks and shares magazine in the world. When I was there, we were celebrating the 150th anniversary. So that gives you an idea. And I guess from there, I moved across into the city, across the river from the South Bank into the city, working for Investec Asset Management, which is now 91, really learning about the corporate world, interviewing fund managers, writing up various pieces for them. But I really missed the consumer side, working with the self-directed investor, so man, woman on the street looking after their investments and pensions. And from there I joined Fidelity International, their personal investing business, which really provides ISAs and pensions to people. Spent quite some time there, and from there moved to Hargreaves Lansdown, which is obviously the biggest player in the self-directed space. And most recently I've joined PensionBee, which is a brilliant company that enables people to consolidate their pensions with a very easy app.
Amazing. And now you're the VP of Personal Finance as well. So you're doing amazing. And also you've written a book, which is fantastic. And I want to get into the details of that later on. But how was it writing a book?
Well, it's fair to say I wrote that book many years ago when I was in Investors Chronicle. I didn't have children then, so I had a lot more free time on my hands. And the way I used to do it is really after the magazine had been finished for the week. It is a weekly magazine. I would stay in the evenings and work on my book. I really wanted to write that book at the time. It was after the financial crisis and interest rates were at record lows and people were really struggling to find income investments, so ways to find yield. The term that was used at the time was the search for income. I insisted that should be the title of the book, The Search for Income, and also had a lot of help from some really lovely people at Investors Chronicle. One was a man called Robert Anstead. He sadly passed away about 3 years ago, but Robert had been at Investors Chronicle for almost 30 years. He was the statistics editor. He was a lovely man. He was very knowledgeable, and he did help me a lot with the graphs and crunching the numbers and really getting my head around concepts. But really, really pleased that I did it. It helped me kind of embed my knowledge, and now just to find the time to write another book.
Yes, I hats off to you for that, because just hearing the graph that you have to put in for that, and I can hear the passion too in terms of wanting to support people, educate people, and inform them as well on how to handle certain situations like getting an extra income. I can't even imagine at that point how the morale was after 2008, but we can feel a little bit in 2025 that things feel a little bit dire. And from seeing your posts online, I can see that you're keen to educate people. Do you mind speaking to that in terms of how you support people with understanding finances?
Absolutely. I think a lot of it has to do with how I started my career. I wanted to be a journalist. I worked as a journalist in South Africa. It was a job with great purpose, where every day on my way to the office and going out on jobs, I knew I could make a difference in people's lives, and that meant a lot. And I quickly realized, moving over to the UK and working within the world of financial services, that the area where you can make the biggest difference to people's lives is on that ground level, where we're talking to people about how to engage with their money, how to make the most of whatever money they have, be it through a pension or an individual savings account. Because really, there is a misconception that investing is only for the wealthy. Yeah. And actually, investing is something that all of us can do. It's within our reach. We can start with as little as £25 a month, even £1 with the new neo brokers and players on the market. And also the importance of really engaging with our pensions, because we are all living for longer. We no longer have gold-plated final salary pension schemes. We are responsible for how much we put in our pension, where we invest it, and what we end up with. So I find great purpose in talking about personal finance. I believe that if you engage with your money, you can really change your destiny. And not everyone is born into wealth. Not everyone will have wealthy parents or marry a rich partner or win the lotto. So the only way that you can really change your financial destiny is through investing. Yes, you can work hard, but you know what? Sometimes you work hard and you might not get that promotion. You might not get that pay rise. But investing is the one way to take control of your wealth and really change your long-term destiny.
I'd love that you just pointed that out, because in our community at the moment, we've got a lot of people that moved from like Zimbabwe or Nigeria to the UK maybe about 20, 30 years ago. Same situation. However, what they are now finding is that they're nearly at retirement age, and it's time to think about, what am I going to do now? I need to step away from full-time work, and the conversations are difficult because it feels too late right now for them, but then it's not too late for younger people. But just as you said, it's not about how hard you work. Sometimes you don't want to get to the end, right? And think, I worked so hard. What do I have? Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So it's like putting those things in place to make sure that it's secured for when you actually need it.
Absolutely.
I don't know if you've seen that.
Oh yes, I can really empathize with being an expat, because if you move to another country, you spend so much of your time really just trying to survive, trying to establish yourself, trying to get your head around how the system works, just getting, a place to stay, just getting a job. So the last thing on your mind is, what am I going to need in 20 years' time? Yeah. I'm not going to be able to work forever. I think the benefit we have if we are younger is that we know that we will retire eventually. We know that we will need to supplement our incomes. And I always talk about thinking of your life in terms of your accumulation and your decumulation years. So we tend to think of our lives as milestones. When I get married, when I go to university, when I get the first job. Actually, just think of it in two stages. Your accumulation years, so when you start working in your early 20s up until retirement age, let's say 65 or your early 60s. And then your decumulation years, which in essence can last as long as the accumulation years. So 40 years, you're building up a pot, and then you've got 40 years that pot needs to last you. So really, and in those accumulation years, especially for women, there are all kinds of challenges. We will potentially have career breaks, maybe to raise a family, perhaps to look after a sick or elderly relative. The biggest impact on women's pension pots actually is career breaks. So we really need to focus in the accumulation years. What can we do to build up a pot, to have a supplementary income? And then when we get to the decumulation years, when we're talking about, say, that expat community who are thinking about, okay, this is what I've got. How are you going to use that money? Talk about retirement and retirement spending as a smile. It's really interesting. Your spending pattern isn't linear. In the first years of retirement, you spend more because these are the go-go years, right? You're traveling, you're still young, relatively fit. Then it takes a dip as you get older, say your late 70s to 80s, because you're less mobile. And then it spikes again, a bit like the left hand and the right hand side of a smile, because you might need care. And that has a whole raft of implications for your cost of living. So these are all things we need to think about. I would say if you are younger, the most important thing to remember is to start. It doesn't matter how much you invest, it matters that you start, because time is the most powerful ingredient when it comes to investing. Not the amount of money going in, time, because time gives you the power to unlock compound interest, which is so powerful. And if you are in your decumulation years and you are drawing down a pension or thinking about how am I going to juggle everything, I might have adult children at home, I might actually still have my parents that I need to care for, think about your withdrawal rate. How much are you taking out of that pot? And can you keep it still invested, a large proportion in shares, equities, to keep that pot growing?
You're bringing it to life, because I think when you're younger, I'm just thinking about myself, it just feels like it's so far away that I cannot picture it. But the way that you're explaining it, it's kind of like, well, actually, at the time that I've retired, this is how I'd like my life to look. Therefore, this is probably what my behaviors will be like. So I think we definitely need to look at it, as you said, as your accumulation years and then your decumulation years, which is crazy to think that it could be the same time period.
I know, but you know how quickly time goes.
Yes.
I remember that, 20 years ago, I was in my 20s, and the next moment you're in your 40s, and in the blink of an eye, you're in your 60s. So time goes really quickly. And when you are young, you don't like to think about retirement. You don't want to think about pensions. They don't sound very sexy, do they? They're not very exciting. But what is less sexy, I guess, is retirement without enough. And I always think about retirement as the longest holiday I'm going to be on. It's going to be great, but I do need to have enough to ensure that I can have the standard of living that I want to have during that time. And if I start early, I don't need to put away that much. I just need to do it regularly. I just need to do it consistently and use the tools out there. We are likely to have, on average, something like 12 careers over our lifetime. When you are in those careers, you will have accumulated different pension pots. Now, a very good way to get your head around how much do I have in total is to consolidate those, bring them together, use tools. PensionBee's got some brilliant tools on their website and on their app that can show you this is your projected income, this is how much more you need to put in. And when we do that, when we really become engaged with a topic that usually puts us off, it feels too hard or too difficult, that's how we build financial confidence. And that is huge, because to have financial confidence is to have the ultimate empowerment, because we can't talk about empowerment without talking about money, because money gives you choices. And I think it is still very difficult for us to talk about money.
But the more we have these conversations, the more people are willing to be like, okay, she's just demystified it for me. It's not as scary as I thought it would be. So thank you for using the language that you are using. And in terms of, you've spoke about working in different institutions and various roles. What's the biggest pain point that you have seen, especially when it comes to retirement planning?
There are a few things. I think in terms of the industry and companies, historically, the industry has not made it easy for people. There's been a lot of jargon. There's been a lot of legacy tech, which just makes it very difficult for people to engage. A lot of people will go into formal employment will know that some money is going into a pension somewhere. They might have received a letter in the post. They've stuck that into a drawer. They have no idea how much money is going into their pension. They don't even know, how I log in. What is my password, my passcode to get into that pension, right? They also don't know where it's invested, not knowing that actually you need to lift the bonnet on your pension and see, is the default fund that most pensions will be invested in really giving me the growth that I need? What are the fees I'm paying? Because fees over the long term can really chip away at your returns. So I would say if you are in formal employment, what you need to do is get engaged with your pension. So download the app on your phone, get the login, figure out which fund are your savings going into. Look on the fund fact sheet what the charge is, the ongoing charge. Look if there are options that are cheaper but still well diversified. So really get engaged. If you are working for yourself, if you are self-employed, it is absolutely imperative that you set up a personal pension because you don't have an employer putting some money on your behalf into a pension. You need to take that onus on yourself. Now, if people still need to be convinced of the merits of putting money into a pension. Well, I can't get it out until I'm 57. I might need the money. I'm just going to put it into an ISA or individual savings account. I would have 2 words for them. Free money. You get free money when you put a contribution into a pension. That free money is tax relief from the government. Now, who doesn't like free money, right? Thank you very much. Put the money into the pension and immediately you will get that tax relief top up from the government if you're a basic rate taxpayer. And of course, if you're a higher rate taxpayer, you claim it back via self-assessment. And we're getting into self-assessment soon, as you know, as an accountant.
Yes. Oh, and thank you for also pointing out for the self-employed people as well. There are options for you to set up a pension for yourself. And I'm humble brag in terms of using the PensionBee platform. Very easy to use, very easy to understand what you have to do because I found that. And as you said, a lot of people say that it's difficult to know what should I actually invest in. But if it's simple to understand okay, this is where your money's going, this is how much you need to put away, then it makes it easier for people to actually engage with.
Absolutely. And I was talking to a friend the other day and she showed me the options in her workplace pensions in terms of the investment options. And I'm not joking, there were 144 funds to choose from, which is overwhelming and it's overwhelming for me, and I've been working in this industry for 20 years. The beauty of a proposition like PensionBee's proposition is that it's very simple, and the great team that we have there have really focused on keeping the investment options slim so that you don't need to be inundated with too much choice, right? Because that can overwhelm us, and that feeling of being overwhelmed just lets us put it off. It leads to inertia. The biggest challenge is inertia, taking that first step. But I think anyone who has taken that first step, it's like the big tick, on your to-do list. You will feel so much better for it. And this is not just, doing some simple housekeeping. This is ensuring your long-term financial resilience. It's huge.
Yes, I completely agree. And what are the misconceptions that you found about pensions and retirement planning?
There's so many. Where do I start? One of the common misconceptions, and which is very risky, which a lot of people would say is, my property is my pension. So as a nation, we are obsessed with home ownership. We do everything we can to get that first foot on the property ladder. All of that is understandable, but a lot of people prioritize that ahead of their retirement savings. And when you challenge them on it, they'll say, well, it's okay. My property has gone up in so much value, and one day I'm going to use that as my pension. That is a very, very risky strategy because, as we know, property prices can fall, as we've seen from the recently announced budget. The rules around taxation on property can change. A property cannot give you that consistent income that a pension can give you. Yes, you might be able to rent it out, but what happens if you have issues with the tenant? What happens if you have periods where the property is vacant? it is not such a sure bet. And something I often talk about, again, just getting back to women, we have a phenomena of what's called silver separators, where people in their later years, or they call it grey divorces, but essentially people divorce later in life. And what often happens is that women might have taken a career break where they've been raising the family. They have far less in their pension pot. On average, women have at age 55 around £100,000 less in their pension pot than their male counterparts. They divorce, and what happens? The husband keeps the pension he's been building over the years that's going to give him a steady income, and the wife gets the family home. And I believe that the most risky words you can say is, I just want the family home. It makes sense. It feels like something consistent, it's emotional, it's a place for the family to go. But again, that property is not going to pay you a consistent income where a pension is. And to be fair, you were also part of contributing to that pension. Looking after the family, your partner went out to work. So, there's something called pension sharing, which means the pension pot is then equally distributed between the two partners. So, loads of myths. I think the one that we all should always guard against is the myth that my property is my pension.
I definitely have felt that and thought that for myself. So I'll definitely check that. I wanted to just kind of go into detail around pension sharing, because I think a lot of people won't know what that is. Do you mind expanding?
Yes, I mean, this is really where you need legal advice, because there are various ways that you can split a pension earmarking, pension attachment. Without going into details of what each one of those is, the most fair way of splitting the pension really is through pension sharing. This is really important when you are in that divorce negotiations. It's obviously a protracted process. It's emotional. People want to get it over with. People have emotional attachment to the family home, but make sure you're getting legal advice.
Yes.
Good legal advice on that.
Yes, because I've had a few clients come because they're now getting divorced at a stage where maybe their children are 10 to 15, and you've actually described a positive situation where they get the family home, but I'm actually seeing that they're either splitting that asset, therefore they're only getting half of the value and no pension, or maybe there wasn't any property in the first place. So that will actually be a better scenario that you just described. But I think in terms of for women, we definitely need to think about this and think about our long-term wealth as well as short-term as well. In regards to the pension gap, are there updates? Is it going to improve? What can we do?
I can talk about this all day.
Yes.
Because I do find it fascinating. There's a lot of focus on the gender pay gap, which at the moment stands at around 18%, depending on what industry you are in, which of course is infuriating. It's infuriating because since 1970, it's been illegal to pay men and women differently for doing the same job. Yet today, still, we have a gender pay gap. But there's a lot of focus on that. There's a lot of publicity on what women get relative to men. There's not as much focus on what women have and keep relative to men. And here we're talking about the gender wealth gap. And there are various gaps. The first one is the gender pension gap. Now, if we're talking about the gender pay gap being at 18%, the gender pension gap is almost double that at around 38%. So you end up with around £100,000 pot in your 50s, less than your male counterparts. These are your critical years. This is where you should be thinking about, when am I going to retire? Do I have enough to retire? Yet you end up with a pot that's very much depleted. And actually, when we look at women's careers, when they start out, there's no gap in the pension. The gap starts in the childbearing years. And it just exponentially grows. And if we drill into, so what factor is the biggest factor driving that gender pension gap? Is it the gender pay gap? Is it the fact that we get paid less? Yes, it does contribute, but that's not the biggest factor. Is it because we retire early? No, we retire roughly at the same time. Is it because we participate less in pensions than men? No. The biggest factor overall is career breaks. Career breaks, taking a break to raise a family, because we know biology dictates it's still only women that can have children. Taking a break to care for a sick or elderly relative. So what are we doing?
It is never too early to start planning for your retirement, and that's where our sponsor, PensionBee, comes in. PensionBee is on a mission to build pension confidence and create a world where everyone can enjoy a pension. So whether you've moved around jobs a lot and are looking to consolidate your pensions, one thing I've really come to appreciate is how important retirement planning actually is. My parents are now at pension age, and watching them navigate the complex world of pensions, retirement plans has really been eye-opening for me. It's been a real reminder that this stuff doesn't magically arrange itself when it's time to retire. It's never too early to start thinking about your future, so that's where our sponsor, PensionBee, comes in. PensionBee is on a mission to build pension confidence and create a world where everybody can enjoy a happy retirement. So whether you've moved jobs a few times and are looking to consolidate your pension because your pensions are scattered around all over the place, or you're self-employed and need a flexible pension that lets you contribute more when things are going well and less when things aren't, PensionBee really makes it simple. You can bring your pensions together into one easy to manage plan so you can see everything clearly in one place and feel more in control of your future. Don't worry, signing up is really easy. We've put a link in the show notes. It's quick and it's straightforward. So if retirement feels far away for you, trust me, it comes around so much quicker than we think. So take control of your retirement with PensionBee. And just a little reminder, when investing, your capital is at risk.
We are doing the thing that's right by our children, by our families, and we're the ones ending up with a massively smaller pot. Yeah. But there are other factors at play too. I mean, as women, we spend more on our children than men. We do. We pay taxes, the pink tax. So this is an age-old trick of marketeers. They give something a pink tinge and they charge more for it. And it follows women from cradle to grave, right? So I've got 2 daughters. My top tip when they were little, I would go to the boys section because the boys' clothes are cheaper than girls' clothes. You know, we know razors, walking sticks, anything that's designed for women is more expensive.
Walking sticks?
Yeah. If you want a pink walking stick, you're going to pay for the privilege.
Oh my days. That is, sorry, my favorite thing that I've learned today. That has been the most shocking one.
Yeah, no, I mean, so, and I'll add another one to that list. So now we've got gender pay gap, we get paid less. We've got the motherhood penalty, which sounds terrible. It's not a term that I've coined. It's a term that sociologists know about, where they have studied this. When a woman has a child, it has an impact on her savings, her chance on promotion, and it stands in direct contrast to the fatherhood bonus. When a man has a child, actually his employer thinks, well, he's more responsible now. He's a dad. Maybe we should give him a pay rise, right? So now you've got gender pay gap, motherhood penalty, good daughter penalty. What happens when a parent gets ill? More often than not, it's the daughter who goes back home, who leaves her career to care for that parent. And then add into the mix the gift of COVID. Now, obviously, it was a horrible time and it impacted everyone. But if we look at research, academic research, it really hit women hardest because there were less economists submitting papers, less women, because the world was a very, very scary place. And what did women prioritize? Their families. A lot of them left their careers. Also, women tend to be in the service industry, you know, whether it's beauty or a lot of things that you need to physically be there. So they were really hit hard by COVID. So all of these factors are at play, right? Impacting us in our accumulation years. So that's why we have to invest more. get engaged with our pensions and investments so much more, because these factors are at play. They're not always within our control. But then when we get to our decumulation years, we know that women outlive men. Mm-hmm. So in this country, out of people over the age of 90, the vast majority are women.
There we are. Which is no, what you've done is shaking me into action, especially in the time period where I can put more into it. Then that's the time to really. So I think we need to engage as young as possible.
Absolutely.
Because when we get to that middle part of life where now you're focusing on raising your family, which is good, but then at least if you have started earlier to focus on your investments, so you can take that time, and then when you get back in as well, you continue on so that we're still on the same footing.
Definitely. I think, we always think in our 20s, we're not earning that much. You might have student loan to pay off. I mean, the cost of living is very, very expensive. We spoke about the joys of living in house shares and the like. But really, if you can just put a little bit away, just a little bit away, because you've got time on your side. And that tiny amount will over time grow if it's invested in the stock market via a pension or stocks and shares ISA.
So in terms of this week, a lot has come out. It's the autumn budget announcement week, and I feel like I've just wrapped my head around everything that has been discussed. It's been a dramatic one, but I'd love to kind of zoom in on how you feel about it and what the industry are saying, because the message from that I've heard from the past is that let's put money away, just as you're saying now, right? We need to focus on making sure that we're putting as much away for our pension for when we're older. Retirement is a bit more comfortable. But the policies that were just announced feel counterproductive to me, and I wanted to check in on yourself. Is that the sentiment that you're left with, and where do we go from here?
Yes, I mean, I would start with when we had all the leaks and rumors around the budget. There were a number of policies that were rumored that would very much impact those in their decumulation years. So there was the rumor that the 25% lump sum that you can take out of a pension when you go into retirement will be impacted. There was a rumor around inheritance tax and the like. The reality, though, is that the policies that have been announced are far more likely to impact those in their accumulation years. So people like you and me, relatively young, I'd like to think, workers. And that is really concerning. That is really concerning because we are heading towards a retirement crisis, and it is becoming much harder for us to save and to put money into a pension. I think the silver lining is that a lot of these policies are only going to come in much later. So the big one, the cap on salary sacrifice, which is a really terrible term and most people don't understand it. I like to think of it as salary exchange. What it means in essence is when you are in formal employment, you exchange some of your salary for contribution into your pension by your worker. And on that contribution, you not only get the tax relief, the free money, you also get a saving on national insurance. Now, that will be capped from April 2029. So there is still some time. What you need to do now, if you are in formal employment, is to make the most of a workplace pension, because they will be changing and there will be a cap. If you are lucky enough to get a bonus, I know not everyone is, but if you are, funnel it into your workplace pension because you'll be saving on the national insurance contributions. If you are self-employed, you still need to be making contributions to a personal pension. And in time, if those measures come in April 2029, it will become all the more important for us to make contributions on our own accord, to have that personal pension through the likes of PensionBee or others, and to add money to it, and also to make use of self-assessment, because it will now be on us to claim back that extra tax relief, right? And if you are earning more, we know that you're going to be taxed more because she's frozen personal tax thresholds, which in essence means even though the tax rates aren't going up 20, 40, 45, 20% basic rate, 40% higher rate, and 45% additional rate, personal threshold, personal allowance is staying the same. So when you get a pay increase, maybe in line with inflation, maybe because of a promotion, you will be dragged into a higher rate of tax. And that is called fiscal drag or stealth tax. And the saying is, it is the epitome of the art of taxation, because it is plucking the goose to get more feathers with the least amount of hissing. Really terrible analogy, but you get what I'm trying to say. So the way then to stay within a lower tax band has always been to do pension contributions. So it's really important, I would say, to those of us in our accumulation years to get our head around how this works. Get our head around, I had someone in my team before, a brilliant guy, and he knew that if he didn't contribute most of the bonus he got into his pension, that would be tipping him from a basic rate taxpayer into a higher rate taxpayer. That would mean he had a daughter at the time, that he loses his childcare allowance. So he would make that sacrifice. It kept him as a lower rate taxpayer. So we need to engage with that. It sounds really complicated. It is not that complicated. There are lots of calculators online that can help you really get engaged. So the big revenue generators out of this budget will be the freezing of tax allowances and the salary sacrifice cap. And both of those impact people in their accumulation years. There are some other measures around the cash ISA, changing, the lifetime ISA disappearing, which people should get engaged with. But the big ones, the freezing of tax thresholds and the cap on salary sacrifice.
Yes. Thank you for explaining that so clearly, because a few of the questions that come through from people is, why do I just feel poorer? Like I feel like I'm not spending more and my behavior is not changing, but I just feel like I have less. And I think it's to do with the fact that it's hidden, the tax is hidden in that way. But then you're getting pay rises. But then, you're not taking home as much as you think you are. And then there's the cost of living.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, things have definitely got a lot harder for young people. And people who on paper seem to have a good salary, they are working hard, they are getting ahead, they're getting a promotion, but they don't feel wealthy at the end of the day. There are two factors at play: the freezing of the tax thresholds, but also the cost of living. The cost of living has gone up exponentially because of factors that are very much macro factors. But again, these two things are at play: macro factors, personal finance changes, and it is going to mean budgeting. It is having an impact on the country. We see a lot of young people leaving the country. So it all feels very much doom and gloom. I think the only way to navigate your way through this is to get engaged. Say, okay, this is what's happening. This is the given. There's not a lot I can do about it. What can I do when it comes to my money? What can I do to become more engaged and do some clever things here, right? And what I'm talking about is not saving on the coffee, because keep those little joys in your life. I buy my coffee at the station every day. It brings me great joy, and I don't think that's the piece that's going to stop me from whatever I'm going to end up with in my pension. But it is getting my head around, okay, what strategies can I engage with? Am I investing as much as I could? Have I put up a regular investing plan? Am I funneling some money every month into the stock market? And do I know what is going on with my pension? Do I know how much is in there? Do I know where it's invested? And do I know what fees I'm paying on it? And as we know, knowledge is power.
So how we're going to go forward is we both take out a piece, and then I ask a question.
Okay.
You answer, and then we play again until
it collapses.
There's a winner. Yeah.
Okay, got you.
I think let's go ahead and you first.
Right. So
I love it. How old is your young?
She's 6, going on 7 soon, and she's quite a character. So she does. We have to take the Jenga with us everywhere.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I'm a pro. Sorry to break it to you.
Oh, this is going to be interesting. Okay, so in terms of the questions, I always love and then I get into okay, let's just play the game. But actually, we're here to talk about finance. And I was really interested in your book, and you shared kind of how you prepped it, which is really interesting for those that are looking to write a book themselves. Your book is called The Search for Income. And it's a great guide on building reliable income streams. And thank you for sharing at the time what was happening in 2008 and what inspired it. But what about right now for people that might, grab the book, and is it still applicable for them?
Yes, I mean, absolutely. A few things have changed. I think the ISA allowances and those things have moved on since I've published the book. But the baseline concepts of how to build a portfolio for income is still very much relevant. And I think in that regard, it is a really useful book for people who are in retirement or nearing retirement, because in essence, there are two ways of investing. You can invest for capital growth, growing your pot of capital, however big or small it might be. The other way of investing is for that pot of capital to give you a regular income. Now, if you are in your accumulation years, if you're younger, you should be investing for growth. You should really be saying, I've got this amount of money, I want to grow it over time. And I need to plow back whatever growth I get from my investments, plow it back into the original capital pot. If you're investing for income, you're probably older, you are in retirement, and you need regular income streams to supplement what you're getting. So you might get some money from the state pension, you might have a small pension pot, and you might have some cash that you want to invest via, say, stocks and shares ISA. And that's where you can look at, say, dividend paying shares or dividend paying funds that can supplement, can be another stream of income, if you like. So the book is very much focused around that. How can you unlock income? What are the different investments? How do you set up different income portfolios using a mixture of funds, shares, vehicles like real estate investment trusts, which obviously give you access to property, infrastructure. Yes, it's been a while since I read the book, but I think it is still useful.
No, I agree there in terms of right now where some people might feel like I don't know where to start. So then it gives you an introduction to all those. So thank you. Next.
Okay, all right. The trick is to see which brick is loose. There we go.
You're very fast as well.
Okay.
Are we allowed to hold?
No. And only with one hand. The same hand, I think. Or I might have just made that up.
Okay. So in terms of these terms that are talked about, fundamentals like interest rates and inflation and yield, you explain them in an accessible way. Why is understanding these basics so crucial for income investors?
It's really important for income investors, but I think it's really important for everyone. And what is a challenge is in the UK, financial education has not been mandatory at school level. It's not mandatory. This is going to change in time. So the government is looking at that and changing the curriculum. I still think they can go further. But concepts like interest rates, how do interest rates impact our lives? When we're taking out a mortgage, when we are putting money into a bank account, when we are looking for the best savings rate. I mean, the concept of interest rate is so empowering if you understand it and knowing that it can work both ways, like sky high interest rates on credit cards versus what you can get on savings versus the rate you're paying on your mortgage. So it is a concept that we all need to get our head around and to be able to calculate. And then the dynamic between inflation, which is in essence prices going up, prices rising, and how the Bank of England or the central bank of a country can use interest rates to control inflation and how they work together. And then the concept of yield, which again, you can talk about interest rates. A simpler term is just the return you are getting on your investments. And I think there are loads of terms used within the world of finances, which people just think, I have no idea what that means. We've overcomplicated it as an industry. We've made it very opaque, and that puts people off. So really, these concepts aren't that difficult to understand. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to understand it. It's just that they are steeped in jargon. And often when financial services talk about concepts, they default to jargon. And I always think of just the usefulness of that. What am I saying to someone yet? Firstly, does anyone speak like that? Does anyone come and say, what's the yield? Not really. So let's talk in plain language. And let's not be put off when someone uses those terms. Because what they're doing is they're keeping you out of a world which you actually should be involved in, because getting involved in this world and getting your head around it impacts your well-being. It impacts your personal finances. Yeah, so I'm all for more financial literacy.
And I feel like a lot more people now are in tune with those terms because it has spiked up quite a lot post-pandemic. So it's important to understand them.
I think we've come a very, very long way. I think Gen Z, I think the next generation are far more financially literate than I'm millennial. I have a husband who's Gen X. I hope I'm not confusing these generations now. But I do think the younger generation are far more financially savvy because they have to be, because they have to contend with things like student loans, with a property market that has increased exponentially with the cost of living crisis. And we've seen the proliferation, big word, of finfluencers. And, the industry can be very critical of it. I think it's brilliant. And I think it's brilliant that there's so many young people who are like yourself, who are creating content, who are informing people, because it's so powerful. It is so, so powerful. So, yeah, roll on. More of it.
Brilliant.
Okay, should I do another?
Yes, please.
There we go. Sorry.
Okay.
There we go.
Can't be this early in. Next question. Which asset class do you think is most misunderstood when people build income portfolios?
Interesting one is a real estate investment trust, or REITs, REITs. Now, this is a way to diversify your income portfolio by investing in property, collective vehicles that invest in things like data warehouses, commercial properties and the like. People are often attracted to them because they will have really high yields, high returns, high income payments. It is important to understand what you're investing in, and it's important to understand what role it plays within an income portfolio. It sits between a share, which is your higher risk but higher return potential, and a bond, which is your kind of steady eddy investment. So it sits between the two. I wouldn't be betting the farm on it. I would put a small allocation of my portfolio, around 5%. So I think those are quite opaque, and people do need to build their knowledge. A bit like people think property is always a dead cert. They are interesting though. You can buy them at a discount. And I think the other one really is infrastructure. I think few people realize that the government needs to invest in infrastructure. Infrastructure can pay you a consistent income, and there are vehicles like investment trusts that give you exposure to infrastructure. So not only are you getting access or exposure to something that is a pretty sound investment and that is helping to improve the country, but you're getting that income return. So I think with building an income portfolio, it's not just about dividend paying shares. It's not just about bonds. There's some really interesting investments like real estate investment trusts, like infrastructure funds that can give you a return, but it's not about putting too much in there and really understanding the risks. But they're a good tool to diversify.
Brilliant.
Let me try another one.
Yes. Where I'm going to ask one last, maybe a bit personal question, because you moved from South Africa to the UK. Were you always financially savvy and good at looking after your finances?
I would say no. I always think that there's a bit of us that's almost like money personality that we are born with. And it's really interesting because I see it with my two daughters. They just have different approaches. One is very conscious of money, and she's very conscious of what things cost. She's very conscious of doing chores for pocket money. Yeah. The other one is completely indifferent. And I have a sister, and I think we probably fell in the two buckets too, where I was very indifferent, unengaged. I kind of just muddled through university. I think my mom was worried about me, so she somehow, I don't know how she did, wangled that I had a credit card at university just as a backup. If I was ever in trouble, I could use this credit card. And obviously a very bad idea to give a student a credit card. A small overdraft on it, which I immediately maxed out. And then I had to do some waitressing work to manage it. It was a good lesson. I think I learned about, the power of debt, good debt, bad debt. But I would say I was never someone who was engaged with finances from the day dot. The moment I really became engaged with finances was when I started working in the UK as a journalist on a stocks and shares magazine, and had a bit of a moment where I thought, well, this is not what I always thought I'd be doing. I thought I was going to be saving the world. And then I thought, the subject matter feels a bit dry. And then I said to myself, no, Maike, the only way that you're going to become interested in this is if you have skin in the game. Now, bearing in mind, I'd come over from South Africa with very little pounds. I was in a house share. My budget was very tight, so I had no spare money. But I said to myself, if you want to make this interesting for yourself, if you want to get engaged, you need to invest yourself, because you can't be writing about this, expecting people to read it when you are not actually engaging with it yourself. So I took a little bit of money. I opened a stocks and shares ISA. I was 25 years old, and I decided that I would invest in the funds of the fund managers I was interviewing at the time, because at the time I was writing a load of profiles on fund managers. So I would hop along across to the city, talk to a fund manager, write up a piece which would then go in the magazine. And it always struck me how some fund managers were really good at articulating their investment strategy, which stocks they were buying, and they were really clear on it. And I thought, well, this is going to be my investment strategy. I'm going to invest in the fund managers who could really clearly articulate what they were doing, or who I really believed in their methodology. And that's how I started. So it was very much, now you can debate whether this is a prudent investment strategy or not, but it was very much emotive. It was very much about, you talk sense, that makes it, I'll put a little bit of money in your fund. But the difference it made was that all of a sudden it came alive. All of a sudden, this thing that felt very inaccessible, very boring, very stale, became really exciting. And from there, I've just built on it, and now I love to talk about it. But I still think that for a lot of people, it feels overwhelming, it feels boring, it feels that it's not for them. And that's the key thing I want to change. I want to get more people to invest whatever money they have, whatever little money, because I do believe that that is the way you can change your financial destiny.
And you practiced it, you did it at a young age as well by starting very small. So we all can.
Yeah. You can definitely do it. I think the minimum investments have come down so much, and there's so many apps out there that enable you to start investing with very small amounts. So I would say the best approach is to set up a regular investing plan. So let's say you've opened an ISA with a platform or a fund supermarket. Then all of these will have the functionality that you can set up. I want to put in £25 a month on the 27th of the month after I've been paid, and that goes in every month, and you decide which investment. It could be a tracker exchange traded fund or a global exchange traded fund. You specify that and you just drip feed the money in. And the beauty of that is you don't need to worry whether you're investing at the bottom of the market or at the top of the market, which is a question I constantly get. Well, everyone says the market's been going up, is a correction, I'm going to be putting money in just before the stock market falls. Well, if you're drip feeding in money regularly, you don't need to worry about whether you are at the bottom or the top of the market, because you will be benefiting from something known as pound cost averaging, which sounds again, great term, rolls off the tongue, not. But what it means is some months I'm going to be buying at the bottom of the market. I'm going to get more units in that fund. Some months I'm going to be buying higher, but over time it smooths out. So you just drip feeding money in. Some months you'll win, you'll get a bit more for what you've put in. Some months you'll lose, but over time it smooths out. And that's really, really useful technique to use.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you.
Okay, is it my turn?
It is your turn.
Let's see. There we go.
Such a pro. Oh my gosh. Let's stay away from the bottom. Okay. So when you were talking and you're saying that you used your emotions in investing there, that's not a bad thing, because isn't there a study that women are better investors in terms of they actually get more returns?
What we do know is that fewer women invest than men. Now, often they'll tell you that women are more risk averse. I don't believe this for 1 minute, and there's no concrete piece of research out there that proves that women are more risk averse. Women think differently about money. So the best example I can give you of this is cash ISAs. So in the UK, if you look at the figures of cash ISAs, which in essence is an individual savings account that wraps your money, a bit like a bank account, but any growth in there, you won't pay tax on it. Overall, women hold far more in cash ISAs. Now consider the fact, as we spoke about at length, motherhood penalty, good daughter penalty, COVID-19 penalty, pink tax penalty, gender pay gap. Despite all of these challenges, right, we still manage to save more than our male counterparts. Why? Because we are awesome.
Yes.
But when we look at stocks and shares ISAs, men hold more in stocks and shares ISAs. And if you look at returns over the long term, cash versus stocks and shares, where the money is in the stock market, stocks and shares far outperform cash over the long term. Cash is also exposed to inflation. So if you're not getting a return that's beating inflation, your money is actually losing value in real terms. So women are great savers, but we don't invest. When we do invest, the mindset that we use when we save, so we will say, okay, I want to go on this holiday. I want to buy my first home. I want my child to go to university. And I save every month diligently. I don't touch it. I put it there and, set and forget. I'm just putting money into that account. If you use that same mindset in investing, you set up your regular investing plan and you drip feed money into a stocks and shares ISA, into your global ETF fund, or into your pension, over time you will do better because you are not tinkering. Men like to tinker. They like to trade. The problem with doing that is you rack up costs, because every time you deal, you buy shares or not, you might pay a fee. Those fees chip away at your returns. So the mindset that makes us great savers will by default make us good investors, because the big thing is not to overtrade. The big thing is to be in it for the long term. When we invest, we should be investing with a 5-year time horizon. It shouldn't be money that we're going to need tomorrow to pay for a broken boiler. It is money you're putting away with a long-term view, and over the long term, research shows, there's a brilliant piece of research known as the Barclays Equity Guild study, and it looks at returns on cash, bonds, and shares over the long term, hundreds of years. And over all of those periods, over the long term, investments in equities, in shares, slices of a company has outperformed cash. So it makes sense. The research backs it up. We just need to have the confidence that we can do it. I think because women think differently about money, and this is where there is a difference between men and women. Women think about money often not as our own. We think of it as something that we share with our family, with our children, with our parents, with our partner. And if you think of money in that way, by definition, you will be less willing to take risk with it. We also get paid less. We also have career curveballs. So we are not necessarily more risk averse. We are more risk aware. And that is a big, big difference. So there's definitely a lot of emotion when it comes to money. We can't take that away. And I often find it fascinating when I'm talking to women about getting them to invest. This initiative called Empowered Investor, where I want to teach more women about getting invested and how to get invested. And I'm working on a course with my good friend Marla, who actually worked with me at Investors Chronicle many years ago. She worked on the stocks and shares side. I worked on the fund and personal finance side. But I always start with money mindset. I always start by talking to people about what is your first money memory? What were the messages that were told to you about money when you were growing up? What socially, culturally, what is the view of money? All these factors play a big impact. And we need to understand that, because if we didn't grow up in a family where people invested socially or culturally, it is very difficult to have the confidence to then say, I'm going to go and invest, because you're probably going to struggle to find support, because everyone's going to say, no, don't. It's like gambling. Don't do it. You're taking a risk. Rather, put your money under the mattress or whatever. I'm just using an example, but it is very, very important to be aware of that.
And we can come to your course when it's ready.
Yes, exactly.
Time. Okay, so what we're going to do now is, I think we're going to finish our Jenga game.
Okay, let's see. Start of execution. Am I next?
Yes, you are.
Right, let's go. Let's make this interesting. It is getting interesting.
It's very interesting.
Okay, wait. I think I've just...
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I might just take that one. I thought that it was definitely going to go there.
Let's see. There we go. That should make it interesting.
Oh, it definitely is. There's not many left. Am I going to do a bit of a hard one? Oh. There we go. Okay. Come on, no. Arlyne, come on.
Well done. Well done. Phew. Working up a steak, yeah. All of it. Oh my goodness. Yeah, we're at that point.
We're at the point.
The tipping point.
Yeah.
There we go. Nice.
Come on.
Wowza.
Oh.
You did it. Okay. Yep. See, is the skill in how we take the bricks or in how we put them down?
That's true.
This is going to be it.
Oh my god. Okay, please. No. I was testing it.
It's like, after I just said I'm the Jenga champion, I got to live up to the expectations. Oh my word.
That wasn't even the one I was going to take. I was just testing to see how.
Oh, I love that though. It's so much fun. It's such a good idea.
Thank you. Let's wrap up and then we'll clean up
right.
just in case. That was fun.
Yeah, there we go. Told you I was a champion.
Yes. I think your family are going to be happy because they'll be like, you've literally been training for this for years.
I've literally been training for this moment.
Oh, thank you so much for today, for your knowledge, for sharing your journey as well. I can feel the passion in terms of you just want people to understand all these terms that feel complicated, but actually they aren't. Can you let us know how we can get in touch with you, how we can follow you, and what is next for you?
Okay, so I'd say I'd love for as many people to follow me on Instagram and LinkedIn, where my tag is @Maike Currie, because I'm always putting out content. I've just done a summary on the key takeaways from the budget. So it'd be amazing if you could follow me. Empowered Investor, which has a website. We're working on a course where we will hopefully train more women. And then there's Empowered Investor, where we are working on course material, which will launch in the new year, which is basically going to be a subscription model where you can subscribe and build your knowledge in your own time. Check in with me and Marla with some questions. I would definitely say my company that I work for, PensionBee, is a brilliant company, so I would encourage everyone to go to PensionBee's website, play around with the calculators, look at the brilliant content on there, and if you have pension pots dotted around, this is a good proposition to look into. Yeah, that's me in a nutshell. I think we'll keep preaching this gospel. I believe very strongly in it. I find it very rewarding, and if I can just bring one person to the world of investing, or get one person to engage with their pension, for me, that's a win.
Oh, thank you. Please keep going. We'll champion you all the way.
You too. Thank you so much.
Yay.
Thank you for having me. And thanks for the great game of Jenga.